Hey, I'd like to welcome you to another episode of Mission Matters. My name is Adam Torres, and if you'd like to apply to be a guest on the show, just head on over to missionmatters.com and click on Be Our Guest to Apply. All right, so today I have Carly Lutz on the line, and she is Director of Programming, Community, and Events at learnit. Carly, welcome to the show.
Adam, thank you so much for having me. Really excited to be here.
All right, so this is a big topic. So community-based learning. So many of the people watching this, they may be familiar with it. Some may not. Some have heard of this term, or they kind of have a feel for what it is, and they know they should be thinking about this, but maybe they don't know exactly how to get started. So I'm excited to get into this topic with you and really to explore the learnit platform. So all good stuff there. But to get us started, we'll start this episode the way that we start them all with our Mission Matters Minute. So, Carly, we at Mission Matters, we amplify stories for entrepreneurs, executives, and experts. That's our mission. Carly, what mission matters to you?
Yeah, I would say the main mission that matters to me is really bringing people together in community. So bringing people together around a shared common interest or goal, really around learning and learning new skills together. Whether that be skills around professional development and skills we need in the workplace, or becoming better in our own mental health and physical health. I love creating community spaces where we can all learn together. And that really started for me when I was entering, what was it, high school. And I was coming into a new school. I didn't have any friends. And my first year of high school was really tough. And I was just running on my own, just working through my own growth, and but feeling super lonely. And I joined the cross country team, and that was really where I found my first sense of kind of belonging, and I felt a sense of being included. And I also felt super strong and was super committed to the practice every day. And really got to reap the benefits of, one, showing up every day with a group of people that had my back, and two, growing kind of as a leader, growing into my own strength, not only as a runner but really as a leader. And that was kind of a catalyst for me to realize that, wow, if I put my mind to something and I'm surrounded by good people, we can build something really amazing. And that's kind of been the catalyst for me to build community, both in the space of health and wellness and fitness, and in my career at learnit in the space of corporate education. So yeah, that's my mission.
It's amazing, and something that I think is so interesting about this idea of creating a community and building communities is that, like, intuitively, as people, like, we want connection, right? But now that this idea of community is like translating and moving to the workplace, and that we're really understanding what that means, just the fact that learnit even has, your title, right? So director of programming, community and events, just the fact that we're thinking about this and on this level on the corporate side, especially with corporate training, I just feel like it's a great step into the future, really, of where we need to be.
Yeah, and it's kind of like you said, Adam. We were chatting before this. I think the word community can mean so many different things.
Mm-hmm.
I listen and read a lot to the founder of Feverbee, which he is kind of a community consultant for big brands, but Richard Millington. But he kind of talks about community as being any group of people who interact, around a shared common interest or goal. But I think it's really interesting to see how that's translated into companies building it. It's been so fun to build it as a training organization and kind of work with companies in tandem. But specifically online, we transitioned from 2 years ago doing events. It was kind of a lot easier to build that camaraderie and sense of community, whether it's with your internal team or with a group, whether it's a run club or whatever. But transferring that online has brought its challenges as well. But it's still very much, it's been amazing to be able to do that at learnit, even in a remote/hybrid work environment. So
Can
yeah.
you tell me a little bit more about the concept of, like, value-based learning as it relates to community? Because I think, like, intuitively, as I mentioned, we want that sense of connection, but how does that translate to the learning component of things?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think one of the things that inspired me to start building an online community for learnit, uh, and just even more generally for the organizations I've worked with, was
Mhm.
that we've, whether it was pre-COVID or in the time now, we've all attended a great workshop, an event, maybe some sort of boot camp or a retreat, and been super excited, right? Whether
Yeah.
that was a week-long program or a 2-hour workshop, you might have been like, wow, I learned so much. I feel
Mhm.
super inspired to like go back and feel really energized and bring that into my day-to-day work or my day-to-day life.
Yeah.
But then a week later or so, you get back into your routine, your energy's low maybe, and you're like, wait, I'm so disconnected from the learning I just did with
Mhm.
that thought leader or with the group of people that I got to meet and network with.
Mhm.
And so I think there can be that sense of disconnection or disillusionment with a really amazing learning experience you had, whether it's virtually or in person, and then the progress you make after that. And so I think one thing where community can come in, whether it's online or in person, is it brings in that sense of accountability,
Mhm.
and support, so that after you've done that great isolated learning experience, you have something to come back to and refer to that gives you, maybe it's just a forum where you can ask an expert something online for 30 minutes. You can chat in a question, where you don't just email back and forth with the people that you connected with or the content that you got to consume during that event, but
Mhm.
that you're actually, you're still a part of that living and breathing organism, and you're able to keep learning in that way. Does that make sense?
Oh, it totally does. Like, and especially, I know a lot of, executives watch this and entrepreneurs and just people that are in varying levels of their careers. But I guess what I'd relate it to is, you go to this wonderful conference maybe or something else. You see this group of panels of speakers. You have all this inspiration. You're taking all these notes. You get a certain amount of retention, of course, and then you go back to your normal, like your day to day, and you have, people that are either reporting to you or otherwise. Just little by little, it kind of fades away just slightly until the next time, right? And you get something out of it. So I'm not against that at all. I think that's a great experience. And I feel like everything you go to, your any type of learning, you get something from it, maybe. But isn't it better when you can be continued to be plugged into either that network or those connections, or even just the learning and all the other things, so that retention can go up, number one, and then just the ideas that come from it and just the sparks of creativity, like that magic has the opportunity to happen.
Exactly. That's one of the biggest things. And that was a big motivator for us to create our own, versus just refer people
Mm,
to, like even our clients saying like, oh yeah, you can create your own Slack channel. But, a lot
mm,
of teams or leaders are like, oh, well, we have Microsoft Teams, or we have a space for chat. But
mhm,
that's a little bit different than having like a learning community, right? Where the main goal is, making the learning stick, like you said, sparking innovation, and maybe just
mhm,
having a space where people are just talking about what they learned in that training or workshop, and they're holding each other accountable to that growth. And then, like you said, it can help create that sense of culture and belonging, right?
mhm,
Where that sense of belonging you got in that class or that training translates
mhm,
into a longer experience.
mhm,
And I think it's really worthwhile for organizations kind of to invest in,
mhm.
because it builds loyalty and trust, right? If you're creating a space for employees to, not just get their work done and share documents, but to actually learn together,
Mhm.
and feeding more resources in, rather than just saying, here's
Mhm.
this one mandatory training we do twice a year. You're going to build a lot more trust with people if you're saying, no, here's a platform and an area where you can keep growing and learning,
Mhm.
that builds a lot more trust than a one-time mandatory workshop or something like that.
Yeah, I think this is a great transition. I want to go further into learn it. So you gave us a little, but let's go further. So tell us a little bit more about the platform.
Yeah, absolutely. So we are Learnit at its core, is a learning and development organization, and human resources leaders, chief people officers, as well as even leaders on the tech side, like IT leaders will come to us when they have a group of mid-level managers that are maybe new. Maybe they come from a more technical background, or they're really good as an individual contributor, and they're moving into a management role, and they need to learn skills like communication, giving and receiving feedback, how to manage conflict in the workplace. So we help people mostly in a mid-level management position merge or come into leadership positions at its core. So we work with a lot of leaders to build and scale those learning programs
Mhm.
and help people grow throughout their career. Where our community comes in is our community called Offsite is completely, it's free. So our customers take advantage of it, but people that find us online and watch our on-demand trainings as well also take advantage of the platform. And that's where we have about 5,000 people in that community. And we do free workshops that are one hour once a week. And our instructors that deliver our private trainings are also in there answering questions and doing bite-sized learning, so more social learning once a week. And they're about 30-minute sessions. So yeah, that's kind of the essence of what we do and where the community aspect kind of comes into the more full-length trainings that we do for clients. If that makes sense.
And going a step further into the content itself, because I want to give,
Yeah.
like as I mentioned, to be executives that watch this and decision makers, and I want them to have a feel for kind of some of the flavor of the content, like what kind of programming could they expect?
Yeah, that's a great question. We facilitate and build our contents. We build all of our courses in-house. We have an amazing team of instructional designers,
Mhm.
and we build our courses and kind of learning paths based on competency. So we have
Mhm.
a whole learning journey. We try to kind of build it based on learning journeys for people managers. So we have a set of curriculum that's specific to, again, kind of like I said, those people that are coming in new as starting to manage teams of anywhere between 5 and 25 people, depending on what their goals are. So those skills look like, we focus on fundamental skills for managers.
Mhm.
Leading hybrid teams has been really big for us,
Mhm.
and also creating equitable visibility
Mhm.
has been really big for, again, that management path. So how do you empower your mid-level managers with the skills to give visibility to people, whether they're in the office or out of the office? And one thing we found with kind of learning and growth, especially in a virtual environment, is
Mhm.
those mid-level managers really are the people that are so important. If your mid-level managers are engaged, that can be a huge point for your organization in terms of retention and growth.
Mhm.
So a lot of our training focuses on how do you keep those mid-level managers engaged from the executive level, but how do you also train those mid-level managers to bring those skills down and motivate their team. So there's the competency there, and then we have about 5 other competencies on the soft skills side. Those range from everything from project management and change management. So we do a lot that's more niche based on if you're a project manager or someone instituting, a big change. And then we also are just launching a lot of our new programming on health and wellness. So that
Mhm.
really ranges for everyone in an organization. We have a class on resiliency and grit. We have one on more sleep and self-care, and how do you kind of take care of yourself as a human, not just
Yeah.
at work, because like we all know, everything is blended together now. So we try to really take a human-centered approach to all of the courses.
Oh, totally. And just
Yeah.
looking at that, in terms of the evolution of where the employer fits versus where we fit in the past, and things like self-care, getting enough sleep, things like that, that might have been kind of like not considered an employer's, in their wheelhouse, if you will. Now that becomes part of like just an added benefit. Like this becomes part of essentially we're all in a competition for retaining and attracting like top talent. So this sounds to me like it's part of almost a benefit package in terms of the way that you're touting your workplace as a great place to be overall. Am I off on this or?
No, you're right on it. We definitely we partner with a lot of specific benefit
Mhm.
providers to kind of be a part of how they interweave,
Mhm.
how companies interweave, right, their look at their holistic benefits package
Mhm.
for employees, and training and learning and development is such an integral part of that.
Mhm.
And I think, like you said, that the personal health is something we've always been passionate about, but getting
Mhm.
to actually offer that and bring in instructional designers that are experts in that
Yeah.
has been really exciting. But I think we've worked a lot with HR leaders and just organization leaders to say, how do you create a holistic program that
Mhm.
makes learning and development, and like learning like these skills that your managers really need, right, that are going to like
Mhm.
increase your bottom line and like the
Yeah.
business needs, like how do you integrate those skills, and like how do you take care of employees that maybe aren't performing well or
Mhm.
struggling in a virtual environment, like how are you making sure you're covering and hitting those skills
Mhm.
while also designing more a holistic program that doesn't just tackle those, but says, okay, how do we support the person more holistically, like what else do they need to kind of
Mhm.
even feel motivated to stay here and want to grow long term, versus
Mm.
feeling like we're just uh, telling them to just learn the skills that we need them to learn. Like how do we kind of make them feel supported, as a whole human,
Mm.
and that can be a really challenging thing to do, but I think it's more the way that organizations have to evolve and look at.
Mhm.
Otherwise, they're going to lose some of their best people, right?
Mm. Yeah.
So yeah.
I want to go through the kind of like, let's just say a use case scenario, because I know you have many core competencies, but I know sometimes when we're talking about learning and things like that, like it helps to have a concrete example. So I'll give you where I'm going with this. So for example, you mentioned middle level managers and them being able to come in maybe and bring their team into some of the community based learning or other things that you have in the programming that's already set. I'll tell you, myself, as in various levels of management, I always struggled when I had to host either a team meeting or something else. And I'm like, oh, what's this one going to be about? If it's a sales meeting or some other like core competency, it's like, okay, there's the one-on-one, obviously like management things that you have to do, with each associate, all of that, of course. But sometimes those broader themes, I always wish that I had a tool that I could just like plug my team into and that we could all, benefit from, especially that's professionally designed, and as opposed to me earlier in my career, let's just say going on Google and saying, all right, what's the topic for this one? Let's see, interesting meeting, right? Something like that, sales meeting. So like, give me an idea of like how a manager that's watching this, as somebody's watching this and they're like, okay, this sounds good. There's a lot of different programming. A lot of this stuff can be something that I can plug my team and my organization in so that they can benefit from it. And it's going to save me a lot of time, right? Because I don't have to try and reinvent the wheel in a lot of this programming that's already done by professional designers. Give me a use case of like what it would look like for somebody when they're going along that thought process and thinking about how to optimize the platform.
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I think if I can answer your question in kind of
Mhm.
twofold, I think
Yeah.
there's one use case where maybe if you're a manager and you're like, I'm overwhelmed. I know my people need help, but
Mhm.
right, I have a set of things I already have to get done. I can only support my team so much, right? And I want to offload some of that support. I think one of the best things a manager can do is in just the, and again, we always say that performance reviews like shouldn't really be a one time, like a once a year
Yeah.
conversation,
Yeah.
right? Like you should have a pretty healthy back and forth
Mhm.
team. You don't have to talk every day, right? That's
Mhm.
exhausting. I've been a manager. But just having a good pulse on how people are doing, especially if you're in a hybrid or virtual environment,
Mhm.
just even talking to them, how are you doing? Having that rapport,
Mhm.
just the employee satisfaction or team satisfaction goes way up if even
Mhm.
you feel like if people feel like you're even known at a personal level, or you're getting some personal
Mhm.
questions. So I would say for a manager, I think if you're wanting to, at the base level, just provide a little bit of support for your team, but maybe not build a large scale program, is just one, just building that trust with your team.
Mhm.
And then also, if there are skill gaps that your direct report or your couple of direct reports have, I would map those out, and also ask your employees, what do you want to learn? Like, what's your main motivator for being here? Like, where do you want to grow and learn? And then you can come to either an organization like Learnit or work with your internal HR team to say, these are the skills that my employees need. This is the ones they want to develop. And and then from there you can either outsource like you would to a partner like us and
Yeah.
and just offer open enrollment courses to those employees, or just say, you need to take 2 or 3 of these courses
Mhm.
by the end of Q2, and
Mhm.
just give them tangible either workshops or resources to say, you need, I really would love to see you engage in at least 2 of these options by the next time we meet.
Mhm.
So give employees something tangible, but that incorporates what they're looking for and
Mhm.
what your goal is.
Mhm.
If that makes sense. I think at the organization level, I have a couple of steps that you can kind of do if you're looking to kind of launch a program. And I think it's you can always start small and build, right? So if
Mhm.
you can start and get initial interest, a lot of times I do with our clients is, let's start with one workshop that we know people really need. For example,
Mhm.
like business writing and email writing is a big one
Yeah.
that org wide a lot of people struggle with. It's like, how do we just help people communicate better over email, and just be better at writing?
Oh,
Um,
I
so
struggle
right.
with tone. I struggle with tone, Carly. I try so hard. I'm still learning. We're all works in progress.
Yeah, exactly. But like, let's start with just a 1 hour workshop. Let's build some excitement
Mhm.
and just see how the feedback is on that initial training. And then, survey or just ask people for what they're looking for, but
Mhm.
already have an idea from the C-suite of what skills they need, and get buy-in from your whole C-suite of, these are the skills we've all agreed on we want to develop as an organization. And then, work with those mid-level managers to
Mhm.
actually integrate those trainings into, the skills
Mhm.
they need their employees to have. I think that buy-in between C-suite and giving the managers the actual structure of, like, we're doing monthly or quarterly private workshops, plus we have access to this community, but there has to be some buy-in up front from that C-suite, and then education of the mid-level managers. And then I have a couple more steps I can go through, but I feel like I'm talking a lot, so I want to
No,
pause
no, this
there.
is all
Yeah.
great. This is all great. And the whole point is because we want to provide our audience with tools, right? Like a lot has changed in the marketplace. Platform like Learnit and as you mentioned, I mean, just provides a lot of solutions. And we're all trying to figure out, for context for everybody that's watching this into the future, recording this in 2022, March 1st. So a lot of change still going on, a lot of unknowns going on. And as we make this kind of move to hybrid workplace and what that looks like going forward, I feel that platforms like Learnit they're just pivotal. Like we need them, and the fact that they're available and there's a lot of really interesting, smart people behind them that are spending a lot of time on figuring out better ways for us all to learn and to progress. I just think it's amazing. So I want to go a little bit further into the idea of implementation. So you gave us, pretty far ahead into what it looks like. So now we have this program. Let's just say we're past that part. We've been onboarded where we have our learning objectives are set. Where we've said what we need to be done. Like, how does the back end look? Like reporting and things like that. Like, how does the maintenance part of this look?
Yeah, really great question. And historically, to speak openly too,
Mhm.
it's a challenge, right, for
Yeah.
people in HR or just that are leading training programs to really show like the clear ROI of, okay, we're doing monthly trainings, or we're sending
Mhm.
people to workshops. What's the return on our investment?
Yeah.
And getting that in a really reportable, digestible, especially
Mhm.
if you're working with a lot of people that are analytical and numbers people.
Mhm.
That has been, I think, something that the training industry has struggled with,
Mhm.
for as long as we know. But I think now there's so many, there's so many amazing tools to help us kind of
Mhm.
gather and aggregate that data that really does show the benefit.
Mhm.
A lot of it are those intangibles, right? Like that sense of, if you have a community, a lot of it is that sense of belonging, and feeling included and feeling invested in. I think
Mhm.
there's all those warm and fuzzy kind of metrics that we can
Yeah.
use, but I think in terms of, like you said, measuring measuring the success of a
Mhm.
program, or even just a single training, right? If you're whether
Yeah.
you're doing 1 or 20 trainings or workshops. I think one of the biggest ones that we've invested in at Learnit uh, is just one, engagement during the class.
Yeah.
So how many people were asking questions during the actual
Mhm.
engagement, sending a feedback survey immediately after the class to capture and asking people what were your main takeaways after that class, like right away. And
Mhm.
then we actually build communication for each employee after that. So we just say like, hey, a month later, you
Mhm.
said you learned these things. Like, how are you developing that? Here's 4 more resources and courses that can help you build upon what you took away from that.
Mhm.
I think that leaders of organizations can actually build on the feedback that they get initially from that initial workshop
Mhm.
and gather a lot of data around what worked and what didn't. So I think there's that initial feedback and those surveys. And at Learnit, we do a lot of reporting to share with clients like, hey, this was the
Mhm.
feedback. This was good. This didn't work. We should pivot the program this way. And then I think also utilization, a lot of times, even if a company is offering a wide scale program and making these resources available, utilization and actually
Mhm.
driving, like you said, utilization, it can be a pain point.
Yeah.
But again, one of the ways we do that is really by engaging those mid-level managers and tying the skills that they're going to learn in workshops or in that community forum to the goals that mid-level managers have for them. So
Mhm.
if the manager is driving home, you're going to learn X, Y, and Z skill in this training, and that's going to result in, you know, it's if it supports that mid-level manager's relationship with the direct report
Mhm.
and the C-suite is doing it, there's going to be you're going to see increased utilization. So a lot of our communication is and workshops, like I will
Mhm.
meet with the mid-level managers for our clients once a quarter and just ask them, hey, how are the workshops going? This is what the utilization looked like for your
Mhm.
team. Are we where we want to be, or do we need to find other ways, other internal marketing initiatives and campaigns to actually get more people in the workshop, to get more people engaging in the
Mhm.
community? So does that answer your question?
Absolutely, and I'm a big
Yeah.
fan of this metric of utilization and engagement, especially during the class because or during the program in general, because you can track. So, meaning if you're like in the past, what would be the way that you would get a pulse on this? You would say, okay, on the culture, on the learning behavior, it might like it might be from the direct managers, it might be kind of surveying them, it might be less. But if you have a benchmark, it's all about the benchmark, right? So if you started with one program and now you have this benchmark of utilization and engagement, now you have something that you can try to duplicate or beat or progress. Like you have something that you can actually implement, and you can tell like based off of that, and now tying it back to the same traditional, let's say, feedback, and to the traditional like metrics that you're looking at in your normal indicators or KPIs. And now you have another set of data there that can give you a better pulse of like the overall engagement of the organization, because that's going to be a good indicator overall, is just like the adoption rate of our people using this, and where are we lacking, where can we improve, and that user journey or that learning journey, as you mentioned. So no, I think it makes a lot of sense. So taking it, Carly, a step further. So now we have, and this has been a great journey, by the way, because I'm putting myself in the shoes of the executive of they're just starting this path, especially somebody that's never adopted a third party, platform like Learnit or used anything like that, and they're considering it, and they're still trying to find their place, on this journey, if you will. I think it's great. So now we have everything in place. You mentioned, you already answered one of my questions, where the kind of the upkeep or the continued support, I should say, from Learnit, which is maybe in your case you mentioned meeting quarterly with different managers. What does the rest of the support piece look like? The ongoing support from Learnit look like?
Yeah, great question. Great question, and I can kind of speak more
Yeah.
tangibly to that too. I think one thing is we have feedback reporting after
Mhm.
every workshop, and a dashboard that kind of shares feedback, employee feedback on each actual workshop,
Mhm.
utilization of the platform. So we have a
Mhm.
subscription model as well for our training, and so it's utilization per employee of what courses they're taking, what they're most interested in. And then also in the community space is, how are your employees engaging in that
Mhm.
community? We provide reporting on that, and that's kind of fun to see because it shows the
Mhm.
organization, maybe only 15 people showed up for that private workshop, but 18 of your employees are logging into our community platform four
Mhm.
times a week, and they're coming in, they're maybe asking one question, they're engaging in that way. So we provide reporting on just on the community side as
Mhm.
well. And again, that's kind of where the community learning piece comes in. Is it's
Mhm.
not just the reporting on and the maintenance on those
Mhm.
those live engagements, but also
Mhm.
that passive social informal learning that we kind of use, that the community to almost serve as like we call it like a net, so that no one's falling through the cracks, right? Like, so that it kind of catches people and hopefully
Totally.
they're able to come in and learn. And even after that one
Mhm.
workshop they took on, conflict management, maybe they go back to their desk, but they don't have a scenario where it's applicable until 2 weeks later. But if, say, they have a question, they can come in and meet with one of our instructors
Mhm.
in an Ask the Expert session. So I think that's one of the other ways, is that the
Mhm.
community comes in and kind of takes care of that maintenance piece of continued learning and that informal learning.
Mhm.
So that's another way we do it. And like you mentioned, we do quarterly meetings usually with mid-level managers, as well as quarterly meetings with, the main decision maker,
Mhm.
who's really overseeing the entire program and looking holistically at this as the engagement. Um, One other thing I do want to mention too is there are a lot of other partners we work with that are great, like Culture
Mhm.
Amp, and Much Skills, that do
Mhm.
specific kind of surveys and skill mapping. So a lot of times we'll also, right, like we don't have all the answers, so we'll partner and maybe do an org wide survey midway through the program to get a pulse on engagement, to even get more aggregated feedback on how things are
Mhm.
going. And we'll use that as a source to get a pulse on how employees are kind of feeling about everything as well, to support the larger program. So we're lucky to work with other partners in the space as well.
Oh, that's great. I love it. A community coming together to help the employer. I love it. Carly, I mean, first off, it's been great having you on the show, learning more about Learnit and the platform, how you're helping your clients and organizations. So I just have to ask, I mean, what's next? I mean, what's next for you? What's next for Learnit?
Yeah, I think we're at an exciting time, but also really interesting time in the
Yeah.
evolution of work right now, and just how people are working. But I'm really excited that we are investing more in health and wellness as an
Mm.
offering, in addition to more of the professional development that we've been providing to clients. Really
Mhm.
excited that we're launching about 4 new workshops that can be offered privately, so we can bring them and customize them to a team privately, but also that are just on a public schedule, right? So if anyone wants to try a workshop, you can go to learnit.com,
Mhm.
as well. So really excited to be doing that. I personally am a yoga teacher,
Mhm.
and a surfer, and so I'm super passionate about helping people with their own physical and mental health. I think it's so integral
Mhm.
now to our sanity, especially in a virtual environment.
Mhm.
So I'm hopefully going to be facilitating some of those workshops, as kind of a growth opportunity for myself, that I'm really excited about for Learn It as well, and really excited to keep growing our community, and seeing how we can evolve it to
Mhm.
really meet the needs of our clients and everyone watching today.
Mhm.
We really do listen to feedback there, and it's an iterative and kind of an innovative. It's an evolving community, so we would love to have you join. It's completely free. There's no strings attached, and you can find us at www.offsitebylearnit.com. So I'd love to have you all join. But yeah, I'm really excited. I'm really excited to lean into this space of
Mhm.
helping people with their more wellness goals in addition to their career development. I think it's
Mhm.
it's an interesting time where the two are really merging. So excited to be a part of it.
Fantastic. And I'll have you leave that contact info one more time. We'll put it in the show notes, of course, for the audience. But I want just in case somebody's watching, they're like, "Wait, what'd she say?" One more time. Let me have that the website, please.
Yes, it's offsitebylearnit.com,
Mhm.
and offsite is OFFSITE, and then by learnit. learnit.com. You can also email me directly at community@learnit.com. I'm also available there for questions as well. So
Perfect. And we'll put all that information again in the show notes so our audience can just click on the link and head right on over. And speaking of the audience, if this is your first time with the Mission Matters platform, just to let you know, we're all about bringing on executives, entrepreneurs, experts, and having them share why they do what they do, like what gets them excited about going out into the marketplace and really just making a difference in the world overall. If that's the type of content that interests you or that excites you, we definitely welcome you to hit that subscribe button, because we have many more mission-based individuals coming up on the line, and we don't want you to miss a thing. And Carly, really, it has truly been a pleasure. I learned a lot. I hope my audience did as well. And we all got some things to think about community-based learning and really just the possibility. So thank you for coming on the show.
Adam, thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure. I really appreciate your time.